All right, today we're gonna play scientific detective. We are cracking a case that I guarantee you've run into in your own life. The case of the sticky paint.
So let's just dive right in, because this is a question that can make you crazy, right? You paint something, you wait for it to dry, you wait for days, maybe weeks, sometimes even months, and it still has that tacky, gummy, frustrating feel. What on earth is going on?
You know what I'm talking about. That handrail that just feels a little off. The hood of your car that seems like a magnet for every piece of dust in a 5-mile radius. Or that windowsill that perfectly preserves every single fingerprint that's ever touched it. It's more than just annoying, it's a clue that something much deeper is happening.
The truth is, that sticky feeling you notice, it's actually the result of a massive battle happening on a scale you can't even see. It's this whole combination of invisible physical forces and, get this, a kind of chemical conspiracy. So let's put on our lab coats and get to the bottom of it.
Okay, so our investigation is going to start at the physical level. We're going to look at the invisible forces that can turn a perfectly smooth surface into a frustrating dust trap.
Now, if there is one master key to this entire mystery, it's a concept called surface-free energy, or SFE for short. Just think of it as the energy level of a surface. And this one single property, believe it or not, basically dictates whether a surface is going to be smooth and clean or sticky and grimy. The best way to understand this is to think of it like a personality. A surface with high energy is kind of unstable and, well, needy. It actually wants to grab onto things, dust, grime, moisture, because that helps it become more stable. But a surface with low energy, it's calm, it's zen, it's totally self-sufficient, so it naturally repels all that stuff, feeling clean and dry when you touch it.
But SFE isn't working alone. Oh no, it has a few accomplices. You've got these 3 microscopic forces helping it out. Van der Waals forces give it a basic level of stickiness, like a weak glue. Then electrostatic forces can turn the surface into a static charged magnet for dust. And finally, capillary forces use tiny bits of moisture from the air to create these super strong liquid bridges that just lock grime right into place.
But, you know, these physical forces, they're really only half the story. To truly crack this case wide open, we have to go deeper. We need to look at the chemistry and investigate a chemical reaction that, well, didn't quite finish the job. So when we put on our chemistry hats, we find 4 main suspects. Any one of these can stop a paint or a coating from ever getting that hard, smooth finish that we're all hoping for. Let's start with a really critical concept called the glass transition temperature, or TG. You can think of it like a personality switch for the paint. If the room temperature is higher than the paint's TG, that paint is going to act like a soft, flexible, tacky rubber. But if the room temperature is lower than the TG, it behaves like a hard, glassy solid. So obviously the goal for chemists is design a paint with a TG that's way above normal room temperature.
And now, let's talk about one of the biggest chemical villains in this whole story, oxygen. You see, while the paint is trying to cure and harden, oxygen from the air can literally crash the party right at the surface. It stops the chemical reactions cold, creating this microscopic, oily, dead zone that never, ever fully hardens. This is so often the real reason for that permanent sticky feeling.
Okay, this is where things get really nasty. The stickiness and the dust, they aren't 2 separate problems. They actually feed each other. They get locked into this vicious cycle that just gets worse and worse and worse over time.
Check this out. Here's how it works. First, that tacky surface grabs onto a bit of dust. Then, that dust absorbs moisture from the air. This moisture soaks into the paint and acts like a softener, making the surface even more tacky. And what does the stickier surface do? It traps even more dust, which absorbs more moisture. And the cycle just keeps going, getting worse every single time.
So how do we stop this madness? How do chemists actually fight back against this? Well, it turns out they have this really clever 3-pronged strategy to design that perfectly smooth, dry surface that we all want. Their battle plan is basically this. First, make the paint tougher on a molecular level. Second, stop oxygen from interfering in the first place. And third, proactively change the entire personality of the surface itself. Strategy number 1 is all about structure. By making sure the chemical ingredients are mixed in the perfect ratio, chemists can create a really high cross-link density. Imagine it like a tightly woven molecular net. The tighter that net is, the harder the material is physically, and that raises its glass transition temperature, making sure it stays in that solid, non-tacky state.
Now for the final strategy, and this one is seriously cool, deploying special agent additives. Chemists can add just tiny amounts of things like silicone or fluorine. These little molecules travel up to the surface and form a molecular umbrella that creates this incredible low-energy repellent shield. They can also add conductive polymers that stop static electricity from ever building up, essentially disarming that dust magnet.
And do these things work? Oh yeah, the results are absolutely dramatic. Just a tiny pinch of a silicone additive can slash the surface free energy by more than half. That's enough to completely transform a needy, high-energy surface into that stable, low-energy Zen state we've been looking for.
So, there you have it. We've gathered all the clues, we've unmasked the culprits. This case is just about closed. So let's lay out the final report, putting the problems and their elegant solutions right next to each other.
So here it is, the entire case file. Every single problem, from that high surface energy to oxygen sabotage, has a specific, targeted chemical solution. Chemists use this entire toolkit to make sure the surfaces we deal with every day are strong, smooth, and clean.
And really, the big takeaway here is that the smooth, dry feeling of a finished surface isn't an accident, it's not luck, it's the result of incredible, deliberate science. The surface of your desk, your car, your phone, it has all been meticulously designed by chemists fighting an invisible war against stickiness. And that really leads to a final thought, doesn't it? The very screen you're looking at right now has its own advanced surface chemistry to resist fingerprints and reduce glare. It makes you wonder, what other amazing, invisible technologies are all around us, just hiding in plain sight?